Now let's shift gears and talk about Just Passing Through, the Breithaupt Brothers Songbook Volume 2, which came out this year. Before we get into the details, I just want to make the general comment that the vocal talent you've assembled for this project is astonishingly good. I mean, I'm familiar with some of them, but most of these artists I had never heard before. So while this is obviously an excellent showcase for your material, it's also an excellent showcase, for their singing ability. So win-win. Now, we established that you write words and music and that Jeff writes lyrics. Does he write music as well, or only lyrics?
Well, Jeff certainly can sing and play piano well enough to write his own songs, be a self-contained writer, and you already know that I do that. But when we started writing songs together, we thought we would go old school and make me the composer and him the lyricist, strictly, in the manner of like Rodgers and Hart or the Gershwin Brothers or whatever, just to see how that would be, since that's kind of the era we were emulating with the tunes anyway.
And that's kind of what you're achieving too, because I have the Ella Fitzgerald Sings the George and Ira Gershwin Songbook with Nelson Riddle conducting.
Yeah.
And listening to this, you guys are the Canadian Gershwin Brothers. I'm trying to make that stick because that's the kind of power I wield. But
yeah, that's right. Well, we love that phrase. All we can do is try and live up to it. Keep the bar high and not do any crappy songs.
Well, we're about to hear a bunch of them, and I doubt anybody's going to walk away thinking they heard crappy songs. You have 15 tracks, which feature 15 different vocalists. We mentioned, cohesion and stuff earlier about the same rhythm section. In a situation like this, it actually works well to keep changing the singer. Of course, we don't have time to play every track, but as we did with Headquarters, we'll at least talk through the ones we don't have time to hear. The first one I'm going to play is called Any Day Now. I've always been a sucker for this type of rhythm. It can do no wrong from my perspective. I like how the guitar tone sort of borders on twangy while remaining tasteful and appropriate. Now, lyrically, it's about being surprisingly optimistic about recovering from a breakup. Is that meant to be sincere optimism, or does it contain an element of denial?
No, I think it's denial in spades. I think it's right up there with John Waite, I Ain't Missing You at All. Clearly, this guy's not coming out of his funk anytime soon. Interesting you would mention the guitar tone, because that song was originally written as a just straight-up torch song, jazz ballad, and the first, I want to say, maybe half dozen people who sang it were women. But my brother, who kind of casts the singers with the songs when we do these multi-artist records, had an inkling that Ron would be good at it, Ron Sexsmith, and turned out to be a great marriage. But my problem as the arranger was, how do I make it feel like something that Ron Sexsmith would sing, because he doesn't do that sort of traditional quartet, quintet with a vocalist kind of sound. So I find it hard to describe the groove, but it's got a little bit of reggae and kind of folk going on at the same time, and yet it's jazz chords. And then, like you said, there's that kind of Johnny Cash E-string and A-string kind of guitar leads, most of which are actually written in there, too. So it's a bit of an odd mix of things, but it's funny you would lead with it, because it's my favorite track on the album.
Yeah, Ron Sexsmith was an interesting choice, but I can't unhear it now, so for me it's the perfect choice.
And we're always tickled when someone like Ron, who is an extremely well-regarded songwriter in his own right, consents to be the interpreter on one of our songs. That's a pretty high honor, and Ron's got fans like Paul McCartney, so...
Yeah.
Any day now, I'll be on the town. I'm okay now, I just feel a little down. You went your way, I lost track of mine. I thought surely you'd be back, but still I'm fine. You'd be surprised surprised I am taking it well. Please be advised I am doing just well. Anyway now, I will muddle through. Every day now, I'm a lighter shade of blue. Any day now, I'll be over you. Surprised I am taking it well. Please be advised I am doing just well. Anyway now, I will muddle through. Every day now, I'm a lighter shade of blue. Any day now, I'll be over you.
Well, that's pretty tasty. You got one on there called Songs for Swingin' Lovers, which is sung in a Harry Connick Jr., Michael Bublé, Rat Pack style by Denzel Sinclair. Lyrically, it's a request for the band to play something swinging and danceable. Now, as a person who's performed in public before using fake books, I appreciate the line, "This fake book is the real thing, just open it at random. Come on, what's more with feeling, but no more stuff from Phantom." That's hilarious.
What jobbing musician can't relate to that line?
Well, for listeners who don't know what a fake book is, quickly, it contains the lyrics, melody, and basic chord symbols for a song, and then you're required to fill in the rest of the details yourself. And by using the sketch format, they can fit hundreds of songs into one book, which is supposed to help you handle requests for songs you've never heard before to help you, quote-unquote, fake it. So what's up with the meandering piano tag at the end of the song? That sounds spontaneous.
It was 100% spontaneous. What was supposed to happen is the band hits the last chord and lets it ring, and the drummer keeps the groove, the sort of shuffle groove, going off into the distance as we fade out. But on the tracking date, I was enjoying the groove so much and sort of had this inkling that I didn't feel like stopping playing. And so I just sort of started digging in and just doing some bluesy stuff and went on for maybe an extra, 30, 45 seconds or something there at the end. And, which, even at the time I was doing it, was thinking, I'm just having a laugh here, and we'll probably do another take after this. And the second it was over, everyone went, okay, that's going on the record. So I was sort of temporarily outvoted, but I like the spirit of it, and I like the fact that you heard it and thought it sounded spontaneous, because it was.
Yeah, and the singer kind of picks up on it too. And who are the vibey clappers?
The vibey clappers, let me see. My two kids, Miles and Cameron, who are both musicians, were there at the session, so they provided some claps. I think that was one of the sessions Jeff, my co-writing brother, was at, and maybe my other brother Ross was there too. It was just kind of like, okay, everyone who's not pressing buttons, come in the studio and clap around this microphone.
Yeah, because I think they're credited on that track. That's why I bring it up.
yeah, got to give everyone the credit they deserve.
Yeah, so if you like Michael Bublé or Harry Connick Jr. or the original Rat Pack artists who they're sort of, homaging, then you would like Songs for Swingin' Lovers. The next song I'm going to play, this sounds like a bona fide standard to me. Great music, great lyrics, and a great voice delivering them. Patricia O'Callaghan. It doesn't get much more Irish than that, does it?
That's right. God love her, Patricia. Yeah. She's a wonderful singer that you would, being a musician yourself, I'm sure if you were living in the Great White North, you would already know who she was, because she's sort of got a bit of a classical following and then also kind of a cabaret jazz life as well, and has done some collaborations with some pretty big people. But this was our tune that we were picturing sort of like, a 70s Way We Were kind of era ballad, lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, or maybe a late Bacharach kind of thing, with just like a nice, true soprano lead vocal and, lots of emotion and tug at the heartstrings. That's the track where I wish we'd had 80 string players.
I haven't heard anything she's done before, so all I know is she sang the hell out of this one.
Yeah. Well, glad you dug it, and that was one that we were having trouble finding the right spot for in the album, because it felt like wherever we put it, it was going to be just a bit of an emotional explosion that you might have to regroup from with the following track. So,
yeah, I could see that. Well, let's pause and check it out. From the Breithaupt Brothers songbook, here's Patricia O'Callaghan performing Last Call for Lovers.
I'm a little shaken. Guess I'll let you get this round. One more bottoms up, then on your way. My heart is not done breaking, and this sorrow won't be drowned. Still, we had our day. Last call for lovers, one last chance to dream. Once romance runs out of steam, bartender covers us, he seems to know. To warm the house, then please go. First time I held you was this time last year. Now it's last call. How did we get here? He's really gotta close. It's very nearly 4. So go on, tell me this is best for me. Though something in you knows, if you walk out that door, it won't set you free. much left to discuss. Big dreams and old goals will just make me cry. Let's take a shot at goodbye. Take in this moment, yes, drink up, my dear, 'cause the last call for lovers is here.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, that track alone justifies the price of the album. So just get it for that one and think of the rest as a bonus. We already mentioned Mark Jordan's writing contribution to Headquarters. He wears his vocalist hat on this album and performs your song The Angels Share, which seems to be about conveying his regrets about possibly having mishandled a relationship to his bartender. What inspired that one?
Well, there's that kind of, it's one of those little story strands that runs through the Great American Songbook of the guy, the lonely guy or the down on his luck guy talking to the bartender, who's most often named Sam or Joe. In our case, it's Joe. But it's a bit like that guy you see at the bar, and he's got 2 drinks on the counter, and you wonder if he thinks the other person is actually there, or they might be coming, or, in a perfect world, if they might show up and surprise him. Mm-hmm. And the title is a booze-related thing, too, because the Angels Share is the portion of the whiskey that evaporates while they're distilling it. A very small portion, and that little bit is for the angels.
So it's like saying in that relationship, he got crumbs, really. He could have had the alcohol, but he blew it, so he gets the
That's right. He could have had the bottle of single malt, but he gets a little vapor instead.
And a little backwash, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of drama, even acting chops, in his vocal delivery. Clearly, he understands, as a top writer himself, how to interpret a lyric.
Well, the thing about him is that whether or not he'd ever written a song in his life, he would still be a famous singer. He's just a wonderful, unpredictable, completely authentic singer. He never sings a melody the same way twice. He's not like a guy you can have him in and have him do 5 takes and kind of piece something together because just nothing would match. He's just so inventive. And again, it's that thing of someone whose own songwriting I have immense respect for, coming in and deigning to do one of mine. That's a real treat.
Well, it's nice that you have that humility, but there's a reason all these talented people want to play on your stuff. Confidentially, I'll tell you, it's really good.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm proud of this record. I really am. I think it's sort of the cream of what we've written so far, and I feel like we really hit the nail on the head, putting the right singers with the right songs. So.
Speaking of which, what this next vocalist might lack in technique, he more than makes up for in personality. This is a name we all know, Paul Schaefer, who was a musical director on Saturday Night Live in the 70s, and of course has been David Letterman's band leader since 1982. He not only got his singing, he also got his organ playing, which is nice. This one is about a guy who feels like he's being roped into settling down against his will, or at least that's the position he's putting forth. It's bluesier than the other tracks. So what's the story behind Bad Influence?
Well, Bad Influence is one of those little lyrical twists. On paper, this woman is clearly a good influence because he's settling down and he's eating better and he's not drinking so much and he's hanging out with her family and he's being a nice guy. But the twist is that he thinks that's all a bad influence. And that used to be the song that Jeff and I would do at the end of our live shows, just kind of as an encore, and let the songwriters sing one. So it had to be not too crazy range-wise, because, you want a couple of guys to be able to, after a full night's work, come in cold and sing it well.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought just a little twinkle in the eye of the lyric, we thought it would suit Paul. And then, of course, once he said yes, you're not going to have Paul Schaefer come in and do one of your tunes and not put a B3 in front of him.
Yeah. And, of course, Paul Schaefer, Canadian.
Canadian, that's right. Yeah, all the singers on this record are Canadian, and some of them might be people that might not be commonly known as Canadian, because Schaefer's been in the U.S. since the late 70s, or I guess mid-70s. But he's from what used to be Fort William, Ontario, which is now Thunder Bay.
Well, we have a lot of listeners in Canada. I'm talking to you, Shel Beckwith and Peter Anthony Holder. They're probably ahead of me in regards to this, and I'm playing catch-up. But it's so interesting that you say that was your big encore closer finale, because honest to God, in my original outline, I was going to end the entire podcast with that. I ended up moving it to this spot, but I must have had that same feel to me that this was like a closing moment.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, it always, gets laughs, and it's fun, and it's the kind of tune where you can go round robin with the band, and however many guys are on stage at that point, everyone can grab a 12-bar solo and, kind of say farewell.
Well, let's let the listeners in on this. From Breithaupt Brothers Volume 2, here's the inimitable Paul Schaefer with Bad Influence.
You've got me home each night by 10, drinking tea instead of scotch, burning candles at one end, carved my last bedpost notch. Guess you've knocked my carefree heart from off the fence. Baby, you're a bad influence. I've started shaving twice a day, buying flowers instead of smokes. I've been saving half my pay like those other boring blokes. Seems it's you and you alone from this day hence. Baby, you're a bad influence. And you somehow own my only extra key. I like your folks, no joke, and they like me. What's worse, and this is no exaggeration, you're all joining me on my next vacation. And you somehow own my only extra key. I like your folks, no joke, and they like me. But what's worse, and this is no exaggeration, you're all joining me on my next vacation. You've got me thinking about my weight, eating vegan instead of crap. And tonight on our big date, I'll propose that tender trap. With this ring, I'll offer up my last defense. Baby, you're influence. You should be arrested.
So was that line at the end about being arrested written, or was that an ad-lib by Paul?
You know he ad-libbed that.
Yeah.
And, of course, it was just so Paul Shaver, you should be arrested. You know, you couldn't have scripted it better, and everybody in the control room fell on the floor, you know, when he did that. It was great.
Yeah, that was the right little button.
We tracked that one in New York. He had just come from a double Letterman taping and kind of walked over and did his thing.
It must have been a Thursday then, because that's what they do. They do one on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They do two on Thursday, and then the second one they air on Friday.
I think you're right. I think it was a Thursday.
Well, confidentially, I kind of know Will Lee a little bit, and you learn these things.
Yeah.
Well, next we have, I'd like to think maybe he loves me, about the uncertainty of not being sure how someone feels about you. This one has a big band, you know, big sound, swing feel to it, and a pretty wild trumpet solo. Musically and lyrically, it could have been written back in the day. It has that air of authenticity to it, as a lot of these songs do. The vocalist is Heather Bambrick, and again, you did a great job of matching, or maybe Jeff did a great job of matching the vocalist to suitable material for their voice and personality. What do you want to say about that song?
Well, Heather, first of all, Heather is a fantastic jazz singer, just swings her ass off, and we've done a few things with her over the years. She's often sung a tune of ours called Take the B Train, another kind of up-tempo, bebop-y type thing. But this tune was specifically written to kind of fill a hole in our repertoire. At the time, we were a few years into kind of collaborating on this kind of material, and we realized we just had too many ballads, you know, because the temptation is to write the great American ballad and Not a Dry Eye in the House and all that. But if you're actually putting on shows, you want, you know, you got to have a bossa and you got to have a bebop tune and, you know, have some kind of pacing going on. So I said, well, let me write. We wrote the music first for that one, I believe I'm right in saying. Anyway, the idea was to write a bebop-style melody as opposed to kind of a Broadway-style melody. So the melody is very chromatic, and it's definitely a tricky one to sing, especially at the tempo that Heather likes to sing it. But it's one of those things where I was thinking about it as kind of like a Charlie Parker head or something, first and foremost, and then like the lyric layer got grafted on after the fact.
The thing about her, I mean, she makes it sound easy. She makes it sound natural. She makes it sound like she's singing something simple, and you know, obviously she's not.
She's not, and there's really, it's a tough melody because there are little repeated shapes in it that are almost the same, you know, adjacent to other ones that are, you know, one note different, or, you know, it goes minor when you think it's going to go major, or vice versa, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, we had been doing it probably 20 clicks slower with most singers, and then the first time Heather did it with us, she came in and said, let's do it here. And I was like, are you serious? She said, yeah, let's do it. And she's, you know, dead accurate. She completely understands the melody. She's a musician. She can read it down. We had great singers with great skills and then didn't have to explain much to them.
Your next song, the next song we're going to talk about, Between Me and My Heart, also has that authentic vibe. I could easily see it being written as is back in the 30s or the 40s, and I understand this one has won an award already.
Yeah, in fact, it was, 2 days ago now, I think we became, I believe I'm right in saying this, the first writers ever to win the jazz category of the American, or the USA songwriting competition more than once. We won with the Angel Share back in 2010, and we just heard the other day that Between Me and My Heart won the category this year, which is a nice honor, and, you know, they get thousands of entries and, you know, mostly professionals, so it's kind of peer judged, which is great. And we were debating which tune we should put in from this record for that competition this year, and I chose that one because for me it was my kind of Duke Ellington chromatic melody tune. Hard to describe exactly what I'm getting at. Like, do you know the song Sophisticated Lady?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that kind of chord movement and that kind of, sometimes there's a quarter note melody, and it's just, there's a chord change for every melody note, that kind of thing. And it was definitely, in my head, it was in that mold. And like you said, it's our little sleight of hand that every once in a while we like to do one that has people shaking their heads going, you mean that isn't from the 40s?
Right.
Or the 30s?
Well, I can understand the dilemma because, I mean, it's an impossible choice to just pick one of these and say this is the one because, you know, they're all good in a different way. So, you know, you could almost just, you know, put them up on the wall and throw a dart and go, okay, we're sending them that one, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, part of it was also that it's just got such a nice jazz feel, that one, and the sax solo was so lovely, and just the whole package seemed like it would be a good entry, and I guess we were right.
Now, this one references Descartes. So, considering your earlier mentions of Aristotle and Socrates, I mean, was somebody a philosophy major at some point?
Well, that's funny. We both went to Queen's University, which is up in Kingston on Lake Ontario, which is a great school. And Jeff was an English major with a double major in theater. I think I'm right in saying. And I was English film. But, of course, we both took Philosophy 101, and that's why you get Aristotle and Descartes. It's just flotsam and jetsam left over from being an undergraduate.
I can't speak to their actual philosophies, but I think the one thing Descartes has over Aristotle and Socrates is a better rhyme for heart.
That's right. And as you know, if you're a songwriter, there aren't enough rhymes for heart or love.
The one that bugs me is fire and desire. I mean, how many songs have fire and desire? Thousands, it seems.
Yeah.
And we should also mention another fine vocalist delivering that one, Emily Claire Barlow.
Yeah, Emily Claire Barlow, she's a wonderful singer and just keeps getting better. She's had a really productive career, and she's won the Jazz Juno Award a couple of times, I believe, which is kind of like the Canadian Grammy, and National Jazz Awards, and does big tours. And I think it's safe to reveal this now because I think the record's out, but she was down here in L.A. a few months ago recording something with Dave Weckl.
Oh, yeah.
For his new project. And I believe I'm right in saying that's on the streets now. Anyway, we're sure that the song is on the record, so it's safe to mention it. Yeah.
And, you know, once again, even though we're not playing that track, it's just another indication of the embarrassment of riches you have with the vocalists on this album. It's like everyone is just so killer.
Well, that one was one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. You know, we were joking when she was doing that vocal that we were picturing her like Snow White with the little white bird on her finger, and she's singing to the bird. You know, she's got such a sweet sound.
Well, we last heard from Paul Schaefer, and I'm trying to sort of do a boy-girl thing here. So next we'll hear from Kelly Lee Evans. This is the opening song on the album. It seems a little less vintage and more modern in its style and production. It appears to be about remembering couples who were happy the last time you saw them and wondering if they were able to sustain that happiness. Hopefully not, you know, with a bitter attitude, but, you know, just... so what were you going for with Where Are They Now?
Well, you got most of it right there, but in a larger sense, it's also sort of an acknowledgement of the, you know, the effects of time on everybody and everything. So even if you're not listening too closely to the lyric, I think that part of it comes through. There's a kind of wistfulness to the whole package. But yeah, you're right in saying that it is not quite from the same vintage stylistically as a lot of the rest of the album. We were thinking of it more as kind of the 60s Bacharach, Laura Nyro, Carole King kind of mold, as opposed to Rodgers and Hammerstein. And,
or even,
and
I can even
Porter.
picture someone like Melissa Manchester or something singing it. For me, the thing I noticed about the song, less than lyrically but more musically, was that the verses are sort of, controlled, and then the chorus just opens up like crazy.
Yeah, well, one thing I try to do when you're matching a melody to a lyric is say the lyric out loud. Where is it big? Where where does the note last longer? Where is the syllable that needs extra weight? And try and make your melody obey that. And I just thought the best way I can think of to have that phrase go was just sort of the where are they now, up the steps, and then have the now be the long note and have some shifting stuff underneath it to, add the emotion. Because I love that effect of there's a melody note being held and the harmony underneath is doing all kinds of sneaky things.
Well, it works perfectly. And just as a callback to Monkey House, you mentioned that song, Too Much, Too Much. I mean, too much, just saying it, you've almost sung it by just saying it,
Right.
So
I get
that.
Yeah, I think if you honor the internal rhythm of the spoken phrase, you'll usually end up with something that doesn't feel contrived once you've set it to music.
It's a great songwriting tip for people listening out there. Keep that in mind, and we're not even going to charge you for it. So let's check that out. Here's yet another amazing singer performing yet another amazing song by Don and Jeff Breithaupt. This is Kelly Lee Evans with Where Are They Now?
Still young, didn't all go as planned. That's when they were in their prime. Then new love had its day. Will it return, or is it gone to stay? Where are they now? In their eyes, days coming